Hello, my beautiful YouTube friends. So today we're going to talk about academia's little secret, the things they really don't want you to know. This video is brought to you today by my very own newsletter. So I started a newsletter so that I can give you exclusive content, do invite-only Q&As, also kind of give you all the tips and tricks and hacks and things I'm reading, quotes that I've thought about that can really help you kind of get better at navigating your career and your sort of time in academia. So I'm really excited about it. I'll put a link in the description, but head over to andrewstapleton.com.au/newsletter and you can sign up there. I look forward to seeing you there, and yeah, it's going to be occasional, so I'm not going to spam you all the time, but I'm going to make it super valuable so that it's as helpful as possible during what can be quite a turbulent time in your career. All right, then, let's get on with the content. So here is academia's dirty little secret. They care more about metrics than they do the actual science. Now, that's a broad sweeping statement. I'm sure that there are tons of academics who, enjoy the science. They really care about what they're doing, but ultimately that doesn't dictate the success of their career. What dictates their success in the academic system is their H-index and other kind of metrics. But the H-index is the number one thing that will make a academic successful in the academic system. And that sort of is normally within a university. Now let's talk about that. So what's happened is that academia has created this weird system. We're clever people, but we seem to have effed it up a fair bit, where your entire career can be condensed into one number. And that one number is known as the H-index. The H-index is the number of papers that you have with that number of citations. So for example, my H-index at the moment, I think is 12 or 13, I can't remember. But that means I've got 12 papers with more than 12 citations. So you may have like 100 papers, but if they're not well cited and they're not well referenced by other people in the literature, you may have a relatively low H-index. Now, the thing is, you give clever people a number by which their career is decided, and they will game the system. Like, anyone would do this, right? So there are plenty of ways to game the H-index system, and you see it more and more. And I know that different journals are cracking down on some of these kind of methods, but really, they still exist. And I've been pressured in doing some of them. It's just part of the academic game. And it's something that I didn't realize before going into academia, just how important this is. Like, there's a number of places where you can get your H-index. Google Scholar, Scopus, Web of Science, like all of these places will have an H-index and they will track these citations for you. A lot of people like the Google Scholar one because it seems to, have a slightly higher number than other places. It seems to be a bit quicker as well in recognizing citations and bumping your H-index up. So yes, the H-index, it is so important. And now let's talk about the ways in which people can game the H-index system, which, by the way, was never meant as a way of defining an academic's career. But you can see that because it's like the number of papers you've got versus the number of references, it kind of automatically became the default as like how relevant you are as a scientist. If loads of people are quoting and referencing your papers, then of course, you're a very relevant and very sort of popular scientist and you should be rewarded for that. But it just means that, like I said, it's being gamed, and here is how people are gaming it. Okay, here are the ways that you can game your H-index, and I don't recommend you do these, but academia really is about getting that number as big as possible. And I used to joke with people, I was like, how long is your H-index? Because it is just this horrible way of trying to work out if you're relevant. And the thing is that you can then use a single number to compare you to someone else, which does nothing for your own, at least it didn't for me, my own motivation to continue in academia. So I was like, well, how come this person who works in a large research group getting on all these papers, is a better academic than me, when I'm in a smaller research group? I only ever had one or two other people working on the same project as me. And yeah, that's it. Anyway, so enough of my complaining. The first thing is you can just ask to be put on papers, and you can, contribute nominally to the paper that has been published. So by paper, I mean peer-reviewed papers. You do some science, you write it out, you send it off to your peers for them to have a look at it and go, yes, this is good, no, this is bad. They give you feedback, and then with the journal editor, you kind of work out any issues they have. You may do extra experiments. You may add more citations. You may do all of these things. It may just be a complete no, which it is a lot of the time. But yes, that is the peer review process in a nutshell. And essentially, at the top of a paper, you have tons of names. Now look at Nature, for example. Nature is a very highly regarded journal that a lot of people want to publish in, and if you look at the number of names on those papers, it's just insane. And that's because people do a small amount to be on a paper. They do like the smallest amount, like they may look over the paper, or they may sort of like contribute to one figure, or they may just, I don't know, it's like sometimes they do nothing, right? But their names get on a paper and they say, well, I've got a paper in Nature. Well, yes, you do, but that's not why are we worried about that? And it's because of the H-index. Papers in Nature get more citations on average because it's a high impact factor journal. And so they want to be on there, but also there's the bragging rights of having a paper in Nature. So that putting your name on paper. Now, I had a situation where a PhD student came to me and was like, look, you've been really valuable for getting the results of this paper. I didn't do anything, by the way. I didn't do any experiments. She said, shall I put your name on the author list? And immediately I was like, yes, because that will boost my H-index potentially. But in the end, I said, no, just put me in the acknowledgements as like, thanks for fruitful discussions, or, whatever sort of like trite saying there is. But yes, that's exactly, the problem is that immediately I went, yes, but I did nothing other than kind of like help guide the PhD student a little bit and tackle their questions when they came up. But I have been on the other side where I have written a paper and I have put people, and then other people say, oh, you need to include this person. And I'm like, why? Why do I need to include that person? Because they did nothing. But you know what? I did include them, and that's bad, isn't it? But that's just the way academia works. Okay, a second way that you can boost up your H-index is self-citing. So this is a process where in your new paper, you cite all of your old papers. Now, I don't know how clever that is these days in terms of catching people self-citing, but that boosts the citations for your old papers, and then that self-citation will boost your H-index. So you'll see a lot of people just like, if they're in the same field, and rightly so, sometimes you do have to include a citation. But if it's a bit tenuous, like I've seen people just do that and just put loads of self-citations in their current peer-reviewed paper that they're writing. And yeah, that's how it works. So self-citing is a way. Also, this is kind of endemic in the academic world is, do you remember I said you send your peer review paper off to someone in your field and they say, yes, no, change this, I don't agree with this is rubbish, all of that sort of stuff. One thing that they can ask is that you cite their papers. So if you're reviewing someone's paper, you can say, actually, you need to cite this, this, and this. And you can just list all of your own papers to get your citations up so your H-index rises. I think that is terrible. I mean, if it relates to the science and it makes the science genuinely better, brilliant. But if it doesn't, it's just you trying to game the H-index system. And that's exactly what I don't think, I tell a lie, but there was a lot, I was going to say, I didn't think there is a situation where I didn't receive that, but that's probably a lie. What happens is that it happens a lot. Now, yeah, and you just do it because first of all, you want the reviewer to say, yes, this is a good paper, and it's it's just terrible. I never did that. I thought that was really gross, unless like it really was like, you know what, you're sending me this paper because I do know this field really well, and I think this one paper fits really well. But I have received peer-reviewed comments with lists of their papers, like 20 of their papers, saying include this, include this, include this. Rubbish. And also, the way you game this is in academia. You create science, you create new knowledge, you want to tell the world, but people create new knowledge and then immediately publish it. And I think that in the academic literature, you're seeing this kind of issue where it's low quality science that hasn't been reproduced, that you couldn't really be sure that it's not just this kind of quirk of data, but you're pressured to publish it quickly and early so that you can go on to the next paper. And so what we're seeing is, instead of waiting 2 years for this full story to come out, people are drip feeding these tiny papers, and it's just becoming a bit of a mess. And that's all because they want to increase their H-index, this bloody metric that really wasn't meant for determining your career success. But all of a sudden, that's what it's being used for. And like I said, you give clever people a metric to game and they will do it. Now, there's absolutely other factors that can sort of like feed into this academic success. The one that I talk about a lot is money. Follow the money if you want the real answer. And universities love it when academics bring in money. The more money, the better, because they can fund their own positions. They give the university some money. Everyone's happy. And we're talking like millions of dollars. And category A grants, I think they're called in Australia. And it's just one of those things. Yeah, it's absolutely just money driven. And as long as you can say to your potential kind of employer in academia, you can be like, well, I've applied for this grant, I've been this successful, and they just see the dollar signs. They're like, this person is going to bring in money to the university. Great. And what that does, actually, I was going to finish there, but I'm not, is that I've seen universities open up a position, and the reason that the person gets it is not because they're the best necessarily, but because they're the oldest and they've got the best track record at bringing in hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to the university. But what that does is leave early career researchers out. So people that have just finished PhDs, just finished postdocs, and they're looking to get that first rung on the ladder and, trying to work their way up. But they can't compete with someone like an old school professor who has got a track record of bringing in millions of dollars, got the networks, got the number of students that can bring in that number of papers to boost up their H-index, to make their research look awesome, which it probably is. But there's all these compounding factors, which means that early career researchers really struggle to prove that they're going to bring in millions of dollars to the university, because it is a bit of a risk for the university, because they haven't got the proven track record, they haven't got the networks, they haven't got the skills, they haven't got the big research team. And so what you see is a professor can cost a university a lot of money to attract, and they say, well, come in, we'll give you labs. But part of that deal is they'll bring in lots and lots of grant money. Whereas an early career researcher, maybe you could get 3 early career researchers for the price of this one professor, if not more. And they would be so happy with like a lab in a cupboard that was dusty and had like a family of rats living in the corner. But they would really, they're risky to the university. So yes, that is what we're facing in the money world. And academia's dirty little secret is, H-index and money is a big reason why some people get hired and other people don't. So there we have it. There is academia's dirty little secret. It all comes down to that H-index and essentially gaming it so that you can progress in your academic career, get that number as high as possible so that you can get that next kind of job, that next grant, that next thing. And like I said, the H-index was never meant for that. It was just a way of tracking academic papers and stuff, but it's been adopted by clever people to predict their kind of, or give them a way to compare each other. And that's not always a good way. When you reduce someone and someone's whole career to a single number, it's clearly not going to capture everything that's awesome about that person or what you really need to know about that academic's career. So anyway, that's where we're at. Let me know in the comments what you would add to that. Let me know if the H-index is new to you. Let me know of ways people are gaming this H-index system. I'm sure there's new and fanciful ways. For example, joining a massive research group, and then everyone on the research group just adds everyone else on the paper. And then you've got 20 people, 1 paper a year, 20 papers a year for you, boom. Some journals are asking now for people to write out next to each academic's name what they did. And I did that once for a paper that had, I think, 11 authors on it. And you can say this person read the paper and provided feedback and was invaluable, but you do kind of try to stretch the truth a little bit, because not lie necessarily, but because there's a pressure to do so from your supervisors. So yeah, there we are. There's academia's dirty little secret. It's not about producing the best science. It's about gaming that bloody number. This video is brought to you by my new newsletter. Go and sign up at andrewstapleton.com.au/newsletter. I'll put a link in the description, but I'll be sharing exclusive content, tips, tricks, hacks, things I'm reading, things I'm listening to, important information about doing your PhD and navigating a career in academia, productivity tips, all of that sort of stuff. So if you want that content, which will be published nowhere else, head over to andrewstapleton.com.au/newsletter. All right, I shall see you in the next video.